So good evening, everyone. Nice to see everyone. Welcome to this evening's meeting. Mr. Chair, just before we begin, I'm just going to do a short introduction and go over staff members who are with us tonight. I do confirm we have quorum with Councillor Stroud, if he's able at some point to put his camera on. Oh, and there's Councillor Doherty. So the only committee member missing right now is Councillor Holland. Staff with us this evening are Lainey Hurdle, Chief Administrative Officer, Justin Bromberg, Project Manager, Chief Administrative Office, Ian Semple, Director of Transportation Services. Ian Sullivan is our host this evening, as well as myself, Julia McCarty-Jansman, Committee Clerk. We have no members of the public with us currently this evening. So Mr. Chair, I'll turn it back to you to begin the meeting.
Thank you very much. And welcome everybody. I'll call the meeting to order. I'm doing this from memory since the agenda is on my computer. I don't want to keep switching back and forth. So I believe the next thing is an approval of the agenda. If we can have a mover and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Doherty and Councillor Osanek. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. I believe we have minutes from a previous meeting. If we have a mover and a shaker for the minutes, Councillor Oosterhoff and Councillor Stroud. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. And tonight we have a single item on the agenda, which is an information report. So we will turn to Justin Bromberg, who will be presenting the report. So the floor is yours, Mr. Bromberg.
Thank you very much, Chair Neal, and good evening, Chair and committee members. It's a pleasure to be here this evening to present the report on the feedback received from the public and the businesses regarding Love Kingston Marketplace 2021. The purpose of this report is as a result of a report that was presented to Council on February 16th, 2021, report 21-056, whereby one of the recommendations was that staff report back to the Environment, Infrastructure and Transportation Policies Committee within 1 year on the information gathered from LKM 2021 to allow members of the public to participate in its evaluation in an open forum, and that staff incorporate the results of these interactions when planning further measures of this nature to improve the experience, specifically in the public right-of-way in downtown Kingston. So this report this evening is to provide this committee with an overview of the public engagement conducted throughout LKM 2021. Again, particularly with respect to the experience in the public right-of-way, and to present a brief update as well on the city's planning measures for the coming year based on the results of this engagement. I will briefly review some of the highlights of the report, and happy to take questions if there are any afterwards. As you're all familiar, LKM began in the year 2020 as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. And as the following year in 2021, the programming was increased to incorporate the successful elements from 2020, as well as several new components. On those that were provided within the public right-of-way included patio and expanded retail space and on-street parking areas around sidewalks, as well as on-street pickup and delivery spaces, the deployment of additional bicycle parking racks into public spaces, and road and lane closures to provide seating areas, expanded outdoor dining areas, and animation and programming. Furthermore, the city put out 2 sets of surveys through the course of LKM 2021, one in the summer and then one in the fall after the close or the wrap up of LKM 2021, 2 set visitors, and the other 4 specifically tailored to the business community. There was also reviews of the temporary patio program throughout the fall with the DBIA, as well as hospitality representation from the tourism working group under the Kingston Economic Recovery Team. Some of the comments that came up through those engagements was that the availability of the temporary outdoor space was regarded as an important tool for many businesses, allowing restaurants to expand their outdoor seating while facing occupancy restrictions, which were continuous throughout the various waves of the pandemic. And there were some concerns with the volume of on-street parking spaces that were utilized for the program, particularly as it was available to businesses for free and did not incentivize full-time use of the space that would sometimes have otherwise been available as parking. There were temporary bicycle racks deployed at 7 locations in the downtown to complement the existing on-street public parking supply. These were placed on boulevard areas, in parking bays, and on Market Street as part of that road closure. There were also road and lane closures throughout LKM 2021 to support programming that happened on Princess Street between Division and Ontario throughout July and September. Ontario Street from Clarence Street to Johnson was closed at several points throughout the summer around peak periods, holidays, for example, Canada Day long weekend, the long August weekend, and Labor Day weekend, for expanded dining as part of the Bistro in Ontario program. Sydenham Street between Princess and Queen was closed every Saturday from July 10th right through September 4th. And Market Street was closed for the entirety of the period between June 14th and October 31st to allow for seating and expanded events that were taking place in Springer Market Square. As mentioned, the surveys were hosted, and they were also publicized via the city's website, social media channels, the DIN screens, newsletters, and at on-site activities. The surveys were hosted on the city's Get Involved platform. The first round was open from July 19th to August 19th, and the second round from October 18th to November 12th. Both rounds of the business surveys in particular were prepared in collaboration with the DBIA. Response was generally quite good. The 2 resident surveys received a total of 230 responses, a lesser number for the business surveys, a total of 16 responses. And the feedback and comments received regarding the experience in the public right-of-way indicated that most residents and businesses that responded were supportive, either very satisfied or satisfied, and experienced an overall positive impact. This includes the free 10-minute pickup and delivery parking, the temporary patios and on-street parking spaces, and specific street closures. The detailed summary report of the 4 surveys is included in this evening's report. And finally, just a note on planning for LKM 2022. The roles and responsibilities have been adjusted for the coming year, with the DBIA now assuming the role as the lead organization responsible for management and programming, which the city had previously done in the 2 previous years. The city will, of course, continue to provide a major supporting role in the programming for LKM 2022, along with its partner in Tourism Kingston. The feedback of these elements from the engagement conducted in 2021 and any comments received at this evening's meeting will also be included and considered in forthcoming preparations for this year. And elements that require road or lane closures by the DBIA for events or installations will also be subject to council approval through future reports. And finally, based on the discussions with the DBIA and its membership, there is a desire to continue the temporary patio program that was permitted in the city's right-of-way and on other publicly owned lands to support local restaurants and businesses. A report will be forthcoming to council next Tuesday evening to provide an update on the temporary patio program and a recommendation for the continuation of this temporary sidewalk program in 2022. Be happy to receive any comments or take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments regarding the report? Yes, Councillor Oosterhoff and then Councillor Doran.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just want to really thank Justin and their team for this report. I think I'm a new member on the DBIA, so I was wondering if how involved they were, and I see that they were very involved. So if they have their support, I'm very impressed by it. Well done. So I guess I'm just wondering, are you able to point out anything specific that maybe maybe we want to know some highlights, something that you're particularly proud of this report. Is there something that we will notice that is different? I'm really pleased of the engagement. And I mean, we have one of the most beautiful downtowns really in Canada, and something to be celebrated, and for all of us from all parts of the city. So there's a real enhancement here, and opportunity, and real inclusion of everything we could almost think of. Is there something specific that you would highlight, saying this is going to be a great thing?
I see CAO Hurdle is waving at me. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm sure Justin may want to add to this, but something that's not in the report but we are working on collaboratively with Tourism Kingston is some enhanced programming for families downtown. So one of the things that we have noticed is we tend to have a lot of maybe attractions or activities that are geared primarily to adults, but we have limited activities for families. We do have the kids corner, but that's not a whole lot when you think about all the families that do go downtown. So we are looking actually at various interactive structures that can be placed in Confederation Park for the 2022 for families specifically and younger children. I think that's going to be exciting.
Yeah, that's through the chair there. If I can, that's really good to hear. I think it is important to include families, and that would even uptown, like, everybody, the core often seems to be the Confederation Basin, Ontario Street, and working up, and even but the downtown actually seems to be growing as it goes further, whatever it is, west, I guess, and so it'll be kind of important as well for businesses as well, but for families to walk that whole distance and experience it all. So my hat's off to everyone who has really put effort into this, so to make it such a success. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any further questions or comments from the committee? Oh, Councillor Doherty, the floor is yours.
Thanks. And through you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for the report. That's really great. And I know people really do like the Love Kingston project. You see people getting their photos taken with our Kingston sign. I just wonder, two questions. The first one is around communication and the DBIA, because I've heard from a couple businesses, especially at the beginning when we put the barricades up, that there was a bit of a communication challenge between the DBIA and the businesses. So I just wonder if they also got that feedback, and if there is actually a plan set in place to actually change that and improve communication.
So Mr. Chair, maybe I'm not sure if Justin wants to jump into that one, considering that some of the past experiences, I think, Councillor Doherty, that you're referring to probably before Justin's involvement. We did have some challenges, as you noted, with communication between essentially what the city was trying to organize and businesses in the downtown. I would say that those challenges were prior to the arrival of the new ED, Mary Jo, who's been there for probably not, I'm going to say not quite a year now, but she has definitely changed the approach of the DBIA and put the emphasis on the communication with the membership. I know she started to organize roundtables where she's bringing her members together that are outside of the regular board meetings. So I think they've worked a lot on improving the communication, because that was definitely by far our biggest challenge during the first year of the implementation.
Excellent. That's great to hear. Thanks for that. So my other question is also kind of a larger picture question, and I know it's more of a traffic division question, but not really. And that is the closure of Princess Street. And I wonder how much feedback you received on how much people really like the closed Princess Street, because a lot of cities have a stretch of street that is pedestrian only all the time. It allows for deliveries to stores, but literally, like a pedestrian street at all times, where traffic would be perhaps on Johnson would be used for Johnson and Queen Street, but Princess from Division down would always be pedestrian only. I wonder if there were any discussion of that sort, or if people wrote in with those suggestions.
Thank you for the question, and through you, Mr. Chair, Councillor Doherty, there if we refer to the survey, the responses regarding the Princess Street closure, it was specifically for the shop sip and stroll event, and that was pedestrian access down Princess Street with participating businesses that were able to sell their wares at along the storefront sidewalks. The response to that was quite positive, with a quarter of the respondents indicating that they were very satisfied, and another quarter of the respondents indicating that they were satisfied. Unfortunately, there's another quarter of the responses there that either marked not applicable or that they did not use it. So with the remainder of the other quarter of the respondents either being neutral about it or unsatisfied. So overall, it was regarded as very popular. If I do look at the comments that were received from the surveys, there was a comment about some concerns about parking being taken away as to make space for the patios that were used during LKM. The concern is more around delivery trucks being parked on Princess Street because of limited access to some areas. And there is another comment to the opposite, that someone is suggesting that close Princess Street to traffic completely between Barrie and King Street. So I guess you have both sides of the coin there, and unfortunately there were no other responses regarding that specifically, or no other specific comments. But again, based on the survey responses, it did seem that at least the utilization of the Princess Street closures was regarded as very very popular and very beneficial to those that experienced it.
Thanks.
Thank you. I think, did I see Councillor Holland's hand? I did. The floor is yours.
Okay, great. Thanks for the report. I'm just curious about going forward with the Downtown Business Association. I know the report references the strategic plan priority of business development and improvement, and so it certainly does make sense. I know the feedback is important for our small businesses downtown too. But some of the programming that was created originally by the city, and like the Indigenous programming and some of the services like the bicycle valet service, seem to be things that would be priority for council still. So is it going to be possible to have the DBIA continue along with some of those priorities with Love Kingston?
And through you, Mr. Chair and Councillor Holland, absolutely, the answer is yes. The DBIA has assured us of this is very much a collaborative project, much in the same way that in previous years, although the city had taken the lead on the coordination, if you will, and the DBIA was a partner along with Tourism Kingston. It's very much going to be the same collaborative effort. Discussions have already began, in fact, at a high level between the DBIA, Tourism Kingston, and the city around the programming, and we will be a full cooperative partner with the DBIA, and it's very much mutual. To CAO Hurdle's point earlier about the ED at Mary Jo. Has offered herself as a great partner to the city, and very much wanting this year's edition of LKM to be a complete success. Really taking all of the best elements that we've seen in the past years, and making this even more of a success. I mean, really taking the highlights of the event, those that were the most popular. And I think to a point that was raised earlier, her direct contact with the DBIA's membership will alleviate some of the businesses' concerns around communication. There's been a lot of feedback received directly from businesses, and even around the new temporary patio program. There will be a lot of consultation with them. There's been a lot of options that are being proposed that will be presented next week to accommodate and different businesses and restaurants. So absolutely. So the answer is yes.
Yes, Councillor Holland.
Yeah, great, thanks. Yeah, and actually you kind of touched on something that prompted me to ask that question, which is that looking through the feedback, there were those two that I cited were probably the ones that were ranked the least impactful for people, which not least impactful, but like that did not apply in some cases, right? So a lot of respondents to the survey, which of course I don't interpret that as something that is representative of people across the city, but just people who participated in the engagement process. So so the survey results that say that that Indigenous programming, for example, or the bicycle valet service did not apply to them. If those are actually priorities, we would continue with them regardless of the survey feedback. DBIA would as well. Is that correct?
Yes. Oh, CAO Hurdle, you were hiding in the corner.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. So, Councillor Holland, the answer is absolutely. We are actually, I think, part of the Indigenous programming was the market that was taking place on Sundays, and we're looking at continuing that, but expanding actually on that to make it more of a multicultural market, so that we welcome obviously the Indigenous community, but we broaden it to other multicultural communities in Kingston. So we are working on that. The cycling aspect, yes, we are actually working with the DBIA and Tourism Kingston to make sure that we do enhance what we had last year. So those are priorities for the city. We continue to be at the table and work on the programming. So although the DBIA is a lead with their members, as it should be, we are still very engaged and leading parts of the programming for the Look Kingston Marketplace.
Great, thanks a lot.
Thank you. Did I see Councillor Osanek? I did. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Just a couple of questions, just call up the report. So yeah, it was great to see that 71% of everyone, of the businesses who did the survey, are in favor of a version of it happening again in 2022. So where there's what, 86% of the people, of the businesses in the survey, they said they'd be willing to participate in a working group. Justin, that would be that the BIA would host, is that right? They would take, if they're taking it over, they would host the working group, or would that still be like a city-led working group?
Through you, Mr. Chair, Councillor Osanek, it's an excellent question. As the DBIA will be assuming the management and has that direct relationship with the businesses, they would be the organization responsible for that working group. I will look into that question more and provide a more confirmed answer on that, because there hasn't been discussion as of yet for this year's programming around the composition of such a working group. But I do know that the DBIA has already began its communication with its members. In fact, they are hosting, I believe it's this week, in fact, an early planning session with its membership around LKM and the downtown programming and amenities that will be offered, specifically catered to businesses and restaurants, which is likely going to form the basis for a working group or a version of that. But I will follow up directly with the DBIA and seek more clarity on that and report back.
Thanks. And for the comment from someone in the public who talked about having better secure bike parking. I think when we had our budget meeting in November, we do have plans, right, to have bike parking as a permanent fixture. There was something in our budget binder, wasn't there? And if it wasn't the budget binder back in November, I think it was some committee that we had in the fall talked about that there is some initiative coming, right, for more secure bike parking downtown. I could have sworn I read that somewhere recently.
I see Mr. Semple is on the screen, so I presume he has the answer to that question. Mr. Semple.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. I think just to answer your question, Councillor Zenik, there are a number of initiatives centered around bicycle parking. The BIA is looking at options to provide secure bicycle parking, a pilot that the city is working with them on. There's also partnerships, and I think what you're referencing is there, as part of the climate leadership plan, there's a group called Cycle Kingston that is runs a bike valet program. They ran that program as part of some events in the downtown last year and the year before. And it's something that we support with them, and that they are looking at running at additional events in the downtown through this year.
That's great. Great to hear, because I know that there's a big interest in riding your bike downtown and then being able to, you know, like leave it there for the entire day. So that's super. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none, could somebody take the vice chair take the chair, please? I can't remember if that's Councillor Stroud or Councillor Doherty.
I think it might be me.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Julia's there. Oh yeah, okay, she didn't correct me. Okay, and I'll recognize you.
Thank you very much. A couple of things. First, I need to apologize for my memory. As you can see, I'm trying to keep the agenda on my phone here, and it keeps fading out. So I did miss something that's vital, which was asking the committee if there's anybody with potential pecuniary interest. I assume there isn't, but is there? Seeing none. Okay, thank you very much. This was an excellent report. I think it covered a whole lot of facts and information. The Princess Street Promenade, I think, happens a couple times a year. For people, Councillor Osanek will probably remember this. That happened originally years ago as a single event because the community petitioned and asked for it to happen. The BIA at the time said they weren't interested. And so that group came to the city, and council passed a motion saying there was going to be a Sunday Princess Street closure promenade. It's turned out that that's been possibly the most popular day in downtown, and the downtown businesses found that it was extremely profitable, extremely popular. And so it became a twice yearly event. And some people have been asking whether indeed it might become a permanent from Victoria Day long weekend to Labor Day or Thanksgiving as a permanent Sunday promenade. And that's something that the community may be interested in, or this committee may want to explore that as an idea, because it has become a very, very popular thing. And lots of cities, particularly tourist cities, have utilized a kind of Main Street closure as a very, very popular thing to do. So it's something that the BIA and the city in collaboration may want to explore. So, and I'm not sure if Mr. Semple's hand is up about this or whether it was up about. Oh, there we go. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Lanny, did you want to respond?
Thank you, Councillor Dorothy. So, Councillor Neal, you're absolutely right that the interest has been increasing in terms of the closure or the frequency of closure for Princess Street. And you're absolutely right that a number of cities, and I would use one of my favorite, Quebec City, in the old Quebec, or even just outside the old Quebec, you have Saint Jean that tends to be closed quite often, actually, for pedestrian access. So I'm happy to follow up with the ED of EBIA to see if we could look at implementing something that would be more frequent in terms of closure for this coming season, and if that could be incorporated in their programming.
Great, thank you very much. So, having lost my agenda on my phone again.
I'll hand the chair over back to you.
I'm back. Thank you very much. Seeing no further questions. Oh, Councillor Oosterhoff, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't need to address it maybe, but you guys are bringing it up so much, the downtown making Princess the one way. I mean, personally, I question it. I certainly think that it can be tested and tried, but we really need to listen to the businesses along there and get a handle on that. To make sure there's adequate parking and ways to move around then. And so my gut tells me to be very, very careful with that one, but to leave it to the decision of the downtown merchants, because they're the ones who would experience the impact of a possible negative impact, and unless there are certain conditions met. But certainly trial runs, I think that it would give some indication of traffic and walking and traffic. So anyways, my thoughts for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none. This is information only, but there's lots of good ideas that we can bring forward at committee in the future. And I want to thank Councillor Oosterhoff. He took away the question that I always ask of Lanny every time a topic like this comes up, and that's that these wonderful things that happen shouldn't stop at Division Street. As the representative for the Williamsville corridor, it's a great thing that patios are made available, bike parking and parking considerations go beyond the borders of the BIA. So thank you, Councillor Oosterhoff, for stealing my question. I don't believe we have any motions. We have no notices of motion. Is there other business from the committee? Seeing none, we've received correspondence in the past, but not on tonight's meeting. And the date of our next meeting is Tuesday, April 12th at 6 p.m. I will now look for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Osanek, Councillor Holland, all those in favor? Thank you very much for our half-hour meeting. We'll see you later. Thank you.